Hey guys, Byron Ramos, and no, I'm very late on this video. I was waiting to see if the Dolphins would have made the playoffs by the Indianapolis Colts losing, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And by that point, it was kind of too late to make a video. And then the next day I was traveling back home, so now I'm back home, and Dolphins didn't make the playoffs. Finished the season at 10-6 after a might as well say a horrible loss to the Buffalo Bills, 26-56, 30-point loss. I don't know about you guys, but that's probably one of the worst uh, margins of loss that I've seen from the Dolphins ever since I've been watching them consistently since about 2011, 2012. And very, actually, no. They lost by 39, I believe, week one last year. I'm mistaken. But it just felt worse because playoff implications were there. And the Bills really just stuffed it down the Dolphins' throat. I mean, that sounded so bad. All right, let's go. Hey guys, Byron Ramos, and today we're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins loss to the Buffalo Bills 26-56. With playoff implications on the line, the Miami Dolphins fumbled the bag horribly. I mean, horribly. This is probably one of the worst Dolphins losses I've seen. I mean, last year saw two games that the Dolphins just got obliterated in the first two games of the season. Those don't amount to what I saw on Sunday from the Miami Dolphins. January 3rd, 2021. What a way to start off the year, huh? Yeah, I mean, it's not as upsetting last season when the Dolphins lost those two games by merely 100 points compared to now when they lost this game by 30 points. This was a game that the Dolphins needed to win. They needed to get into the playoffs. And if they didn't win, they needed one of, three other teams to lose, and none of those people lost. Given they had, I would not say easier opponents, but an easier chance of victory compared to the Dolphins, especially when the Bills were not resting most of their starters until about early in the third quarter, and it's just unfortunate at that point. But let's talk about it. So, Miami Dolphins had one lead in this game, just one single lead. It was a 3-0 lead, and after that, it was all downhill for Miami. So let's get into that. We're going to start off with the box score. If you guys can see above me, I have a little running line basically saying, just recapping it, and that's something I'm going to try to implement in my videos in the future with the way I'm recording right now in 2021, and that's having a little information above me just to give you guys a little bit more information, even if I don't cover it, even though that's probably like the most important information. Miami Dolphins lose to Buffalo Bills 26-56. The stats of both starting quarterbacks, I know a lot of people love to see that. And then not only that, just other news like the Dolphins needed to win this game and fall just short of one game of making it to the playoffs. So let me know if you guys like that. That's something I want to use moving forward. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the stats. Obviously, we have Tua Tagovailoa went 35 for 58, 361 yards, one touchdown, 3 interceptions. That's the most he's thrown. That doubles his interception total on the season to, I believe, 6, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to go over more of that in the final season overview, fourth quarter season overview. He was sacked once for a loss of 9 yards. He just didn't look good. Lynn Bolden had one pass for the Dolphins for 32 yards. And let's go to the Buffalo Bills, where Josh Allen went 18 for 25, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack for a loss of 11 yards. I mean, Josh Allen was having a pretty good game. The interception was, I believe, on the first drive. Byron Jones intercepts it. They call it out of bounds at first. But instantly, when I saw it, I knew that he had his feet in bounds. I just saw it. Saw the toe drag. And then, turns out, Flo challenges it before the next play got off. And Dolphins ended up getting the ball, taking it down the field, getting a field goal, not a touchdown, unfortunate. but let's continue on. Matt Barkley came into the game. He went 6 for 13, 164 yards, one touchdown, one interception, and he was not sacked at all. Rushing was not very good rushing game for both teams. Overall, both teams did not pass 80 yards. Dolphins had 70, Bills had 78 overall. Savon Ahmed had 6 carries, 29 yards, one touchdown. Tua Tagovailoa, 6 carries, 28 yards. Myles Gaskin, 7 carries, 20 yards, one touchdown. Lynn Bolden Jr. had 1 carry for negative 7 yards. Then next, for the Bills, we have Antonio Williams was their leading rusher. 12 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zach Moss, 3 carries, 8 yards. Devin Singletary, 3 carries, 7 yards. Josh Allen, 2 carries, 7 yards. Isaiah McKenzie, 2 carries, no yards. And Matt Barkley had 3 carries for a loss of 3 yards. Receiving, Devontae Parker eclipsed 100 yards, I think, for the 3rd time this season. And wasn't enough because, the Dolphins and the Bills pretty much had the same passing yards. So this was a matter of the Dolphins not being successful with their drives. They would have decent, mediocre drives, but never have enough. And then at some point, they're playing catch up and then having to force the ball. Not only that, just going for it on 4th downs, not good getting them. Let's continue on the stats. Devontae Parker, 7 receptions, 116 yards. Myles Gaskin had 4 receptions, 57 yards. Mike Gesicki, 5 receptions, 47 yards. Lynn Bolden Jr. had 8 receptions, 44 yards. Isaiah Ford, 3 receptions, 37 yards. Malcolm Perry, 1 reception, 25 yards. Durham Smythe, 3 receptions, 23 yards. Adam Shaheen, 1 reception, 22 yards. Savon Ahmed, 3 receptions, 19 yards. Matt Collins, 1 reception, 3 yards. Bills, Gabriel Davis had 2 receptions for 107 yards. His long one was 56 yards. This is not good. Stephon Diggs needed these 76 yards to finish the season as the NFL's leading receiver in yards with 7 receptions, 76 yards. Josh Brown had 4 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Came off of a 32-yard bomb. I believe he burnt the hell out of Byron Jones, which kind of common thread you see here. Byron Jones has been getting burned. He got burned by Christian Kirk in the Arizona game. Let's go to the next guy, Isaiah McKenzie, Miami native. He had 6 receptions, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just kept on beating Nick Needham in the red zone when they came to getting those 2 receiving touchdowns. And he had another one on a punt return, which I'll talk about in a bit. Dawson Knox had 2 receptions, 29 yards. Antonio Williams, 1 reception, 20 yards. Zach Moss, 1 reception, 13 yards. Devin Singletary, 1 reception, 6 yards. Fumbles. So Mac Hollins, he fumbled one and he lost it by Harrison Phillips recovering it. And then Malcolm Perry fumbled it and it went out of bounds. That was on a kick, on a punt, I believe. Was it a punt or kick return? I'm not too sure. I know it was on special teams play. Defensively, Eric Rowe was the Miami Dolphins' leading tackler. 7 total tackles, 5 solo. Byron Jones, 6 total, 6 solo. 1 pass deflection. Andrew Van Ginkel, 5 total, 5 solo. 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass deflection, 1 QB hit. Then let's go over to Xavier Howard, 1 pass deflection. Zach Sealer had 1 QB hit. And then Noah Igbenogany had 1 pass deflection. For the Bills, Tremaine Edmonds, I said it right this time. 9 total tackles, 5 solo, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for a loss, 1 QB hit. Tyler Matakovich, pretty much butchered that. 6 total tackles, 4 solo. He had 2 pass deflections. Taron Johnson had 6 total, 3 solo, 1 pass deflection. Matt Milano had 5 total, 5 solo. And then let's go into some key stats. Andre Smith had 1 tackle for a loss. Josh Norman had 2 pass deflections and a touchdown. Talk about that one in a bit. Levi Wallace, nothing made crazy there. Dane Jackson had 1 tackle for a loss, 2 pass deflections. AJ Spencer had 1 QB hit. Let's see what else. Saran Neal had 1 pass deflection. Justin Zimmer had 1 QB hit. Harrison Phillips had one QB hit. AJ Klein had one pass deflection, and then Dean Marlowe had two pass deflections. So, next, interceptions. Xavier Howard and Byron Jones both got an interception. Xavier Howard had 6 yards of return on his interception. Byron Jones had intercepted it, went right out of bounds with a toe drag, I mentioned earlier. Dean Marlowe had 2 interceptions, returned for 39 yards. Josh Norman had 1 interception, returned for 16 yards, and a touchdown. Unfortunate. That was the one that the punt literally bounced, went to the corner, and literally landed on like right next to the pylon. So it literally was just like inches away from almost being a touchback if it would have been in bounds, but literally bounced right out of bounds. Unfortunate. A couple plays later, Tua throws a pick to Josh Norman, who was covering Devontae Parker, who slipped on the route. So it is what it is. Kick returns. Dolphins had none. Isaiah McKenzie had 2. He had 2 for a return of 32 total yards. And then punt returns, Malcolm Perry had 1 return for 12 yards. You're asking, where is Jakeem Grant? Jakeem Grant was injured. He was out of this game. Isaiah McKenzie had 1 return for 84 yards and a touchdown. Some may debate that Andrew Van Ginkel got held on the end there. But at that point, I mean, could he have got him? Maybe. Who knows? But he had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Basically broke the game at that point. Kicking. Jason Sanders went 2 for 2 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. The longest field goal was 49 yards. Tyler Bass had no field goals but had 8 extra points. Yeah, it's one of those days. Matt Hack went 5 punts for 218 yards. No touchbacks. 2 of them were in the 20. His longest was 55 yards. And then Corey Borquez had 4 punts, 214 yards. 1 touchback, 2 were in the 20, and his longest was 69 yards. That was the one that went to the 1-yard line, basically the goal line. So, with those stats out of the way, let's talk about the records of the AFC East. The Bills finish off the year 13-3, Dolphins 10-6, New England Patriots 7-9, Jets 2-4, 14. Whoa. So, let's talk about this game. It wasn't very good. Was not very good in the Dolphins' favor. They were doing good in the first quarter. Was locking it up 3-0, but at that point, it was too late. Team stats, Miami went 454 yards, Bills 455, so just about the same. Turnovers, Dolphins had 4, Bills had 2. Time of possession, 32 minutes, 38 seconds for Miami, 27 minutes, 22 seconds for Buffalo. First downs, Dolphins had 27, Bills had 24. Obviously, towards the end of the game, the Bills were pretty much just running the ball, killing clock. What you do when you're up big. At halftime, it was 13-28. That was close. No, before halftime, it was 6-28. Dolphins come out, score on the first drive. Then the Bills answer right back, 13-35. And then Bills scored 2 more touchdowns. Dolphins scored a touchdown, Bills scored a touchdown. Dolphins scored the final touchdown. It wasn't really good. This is the face of defeat right now. It's very upsetting to see this happen. As a fan, seeing the Dolphins have the opportunity to make it to the playoffs and just get dominated. And at that point, if one of those teams did lose that Dolphins needed to lose, they would have ended up facing the Bills either way. Because with every other team winning, and if, let's say, the Colts lost, then the Dolphins would have been the 7th seed and would have had a rematch with the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I know you can't beat the same team possibly 3 times, but after that dominating performance, they pretty much put the Dolphins to bed for the year, and it showed. I mean, the Dolphins were doing really good up until this point in this year, and they got exposed in the last game, big time. So It's never good losing by 30. But looking forward, there's a lot of things to look forward to that. But I will mention more of that in my fourth quarter of the season review, which is I'm probably going to be ripping the Dolphins even more. But on the bright side, a lot of people did not expect this Miami Dolphins team to go 10-6, to not even reach double-digit wins. So within that, it's a feat itself, especially after them going 5-11 last year. The whole hysteria of whether who should be the quarterback, Tua or Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick couldn't even travel to the game because he had COVID. Yada, yada, yada. This is Tua's team moving forward. 2 of the 3 interceptions were passes that hit the receiver's hands, just bounces into the defender's hands. What can you do about those? I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and it ended up happening. And the final score is what the final score is. Give those 2 interceptions back. Do the Dolphins have a closer game? Maybe. The interception of Josh Norman. Unfortunate Devontae Parker slips, but it is what it is. I mean, is this a very, very bad loss for the Dolphins? And it's unfortunate. I've said this so many times. But all in all, I'm proud of what the Dolphins have done this season. And like I mentioned earlier, not many people expected them to be here. The progression of the team was steadily improving at each and every week, and you could see it. So this very last week, it just was not good. Obviously, when it came down to the line, Dolphins were in contention to make the playoffs. They weren't fighting for a lottery pick. I mean, I wouldn't say a lottery pick, but a top 10 pick, because they have that with the Houston pick. They have a top 3 pick. So they have a 13th pick and the 18th pick in the first round. Obviously, and they have another second round pick and another second round pick. So it's just, the Dolphins' future is bright. They have a lot of money for cap space. They have a lot of people who are interested in going into Miami because they drew in free agents last offseason, and then this upcoming offseason, they're going to interest a lot more people. On top of all of that, the Dolphins, their future is bright. They are where the Bills were about 2 years ago. I'd say about there. This is one of those things that the Dolphins needed to beat the Bills in order to win the division. That first game and this game, it would have made a big difference if those 2 games would have gone in the Dolphins' favor. Now it didn't, and it's unfortunate. But besides that, big improvement from 2019 to 2020, and 2021 is looking bright, and the rest of the years moving forward are also looking bright. So if you're a Dolphin fan and watching this, don't feel so down. I was upset just because they're just right there and just did not make the cut. It's unfortunate. When you put your destiny in other people's hands, it turns out to not be in your favor. I mean, look at the New York Giants. They won their game and then hoped for the Eagles to win. And then Doug Peterson takes out Jalen Hurts when the Eagles probably could have won that game. And it would have made a whole difference. But a lot of the Giants players were complaining, saying like, wow, are you serious right now? Blah, blah, blah. And I think Logan Ryan summed it up pretty well. He said, look, we were 6-10. We shouldn't even be in this possible position, but we are. And given that, we shouldn't be complaining that we didn't make the playoffs. And that's something I appreciate. That's such like a mindset, like, we didn't do good enough. Like, we shouldn't even be in this position. It's what he said was just straight facts, and I loved what he said. Just kind of reset the mindset and like kind of humbled his fellow teammates for being upset, even though I'm pretty sure he was upset. But enough of that. Dolphins 2020 season is a wrap. Didn't end how some people hoped it would have. I hoped it would have ended a little bit better, possibly 11-5. But they finished just about where I thought they would. And before I continue yapping your ear off, I know this is a long video. I'm just going to cut it off now. You'll see more of me, especially in this jacket. I'm going to make my fourth quarter of the season review, and then I'm going to do my game picks, and I'm going to have a special guest, so be sure to look at that when it comes out. So hope you guys stick around, And lastly, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByAustinRamos. And subscribe. More Dolphins news coming out. I have some other sports stuff that is going to be coming out soon. And just stay tuned. And last one of the year. I haven't been doing this one as of late, but fins up.